Welcome back. Children took centre stage at Africa's Children's Summit this week. The summit brought together over 1,000 children from across the country. This year's focus was on children's rights, gender-based violence and inclusive representation of marginalised groups. For more on this story, we are now joined by the Deputy Director General for Welfare Services at the Department of Social Development, that is CISA, and also joining us is the Deputy President for the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund Parliament, Kearabetswe Khose. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Kearabetswe, let's start off with you. So the summit taking place and looking at some of the challenges that children are facing. We just had a conversation now with the Judge President of the High Court Division in KwaZulu-Natal. And she also speaks about the concern around violence being perpetrated against children. Tell us about how the summit was able to deal with that.
Thank you very much again for the opportunity. During the open discussion of the summit, the children highly expressed their concerns about violence and being considerate about violence takes place in different forms. Remember, you are checking that the sexual molestation, you check that children are being sexually being abused, you check child trafficking, you check other varieties, even child marriage is considered to be a violence. So the summit was able to open a platform for the children, not only in South Africa, but across Africa, so that they can express what are their challenges and how even this affects their performance at school and their relationship with families. So it was an open platform for the children to be able to express themselves.
Yeah, and again, going back to that conversation with the Judge President, for me, it's also about the concern that we have so many children experiencing violence from a young age, and how that violence or the trauma from that violence then show up later on in their adulthood. How do we deal with that element after the violence has now taken place? Because in some instances, you struggle to stop the violence itself. But after the violence has taken place, the emotional support that is required, but also the mental well-being of the child leading them into their adulthood.
Regarding that is what we call an implementation mechanism, whereby we deal with the mental and emotional aspects of the child that are being directly dealt with in order to ensure that even the child gets justice. So at the summit, we did agree upon, even as the delegation of the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, that we see the importance of the cooperation with the South African Police Service and the Department of Justice in these matters, because of they are the ones that have the majority of ruling in ensuring that the perpetrators that have victimized the children do not get justice. It was even recalled that by the children that a life sentence should be imposed even for the offense of first-time raping. A life sentence should be imposed. This was requested by the children and not by us, the delegation of NMCP. So the children themselves politely spoken that a life sentence is what we request, and we request full conduction of investigations and full cooperation by the SAPS and the Department of Justice and Correctional Services.
Yeah, and then what about children themselves who then become in conflict with the law?
Now, that's what we call a disciplinary format. There's a platform that we are trying to open up, still under the implementation mechanism, that those children that are condoning or opposing the law, they also have to be taking into consideration of, whereby we still have the Department of Social Development in cooperation with dealing with those type of children, whereby they are not taking the law into consideration. So our alignment or our cooperation with the Department of Social Development, not only them, but with the various departments, we can be able to tackle. And we also need the parent support in these matters, so that we can be able to check that how is it we narrate the matters that the child has done against the law into a format that the child is able to now be accommodated by.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes when you have these conversations, people will say to you, but the reason that we have children that are quote-unquote ill-disciplined, the violence that they perpetrate against other children, the bullying that happens in school, is because of the lack of discipline that is known to be physical discipline, where we speak about corporal punishment, and we know that it's outlawed in this country. As the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, how then do you respond to that particular element around how do we reimagine what discipline looks like without being physical, but still getting the intended results out of it, where you have a child who's able to follow the rules?
We have a saying that everything starts at home. So definitely we need to have more engagements with the parents. We have seen that normally when we have done our engagements, it is only from adult to adult, not from a child to adult, in a sense that a child is the one that is able to speak to the adults when there's a meeting in the community. So we need a child to be able to express what is it that they request from the parents. Sometimes we still consider that we can take the child to the third persons, the social workers, we can take the child to the teachers, but when the main problem is at home, then we need to intervene. So we need to interact with our parents. That's why we say that as the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, we plead with our parents to cooperate with us in ensuring that we protect the future of the children of South Africa. So we need parental guidance and support in these mentors because of some of the elements that the children are taking into because of they see from the parents themselves. You talk about alcohol abuse, you talk about physical fights, assaults that are being happening. It's because of some of the children are being exposed to that. So it has to start at home, whereby the parents limit, and also our government to take responsibility to ensure that the child's needs are being met. In that manner, we are able to instill discipline, and through the Department of Basic Education, we are able to even see progress through academics in that platform.
Yeah, let's deal with just one final one, and that is children are already vulnerable, but then amongst those vulnerable children are children that are even further vulnerable, and here we're speaking about children living with a disability. The response to that, because the state, even though there's national legislation, is failing even the adults.
So with regards to children that are living with certain disabilities, we also have the same procedure. But this one is a special requirement that we have to instill discipline or ensure that the child is properly accommodated in accordance to their special disability or the physical format that they are unable to live by. Remember, we have children that are visually impaired, we have children that are hearing impaired, so we have to also accommodate them. So also to ensure that violence does not happen against them as well, we need to have a person that is always standing nearby them, the parent speaking, the teachers speaking. If the child is even facing violence at school, that's whereby we need intervention. So we say that the child is able to go to the police and report this matter. However, in any way, the South African Police Service, when it comes to a child, they are bound to go to the Department of Social Development. Through that platform, we are able to hear, us as the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, that there's a child living with a particular disability that is being victimized, or that is facing bullying or certain harassment or assault. So we are able to intervene in that particular area so that we minimize the number of suicidal thoughts, depression that children living with disabilities have.